Sara Aljneibi is an artist, embodiment and empowerment guide, shamanic breathwork and therapeutic movement and dance practitioner. She is half Emirati and half English, and one of the first Emiratis supporting women's liberation and creativity around the world. Dedicating the past 15 years to studying and teaching art and healing arts across Europe, South and North America and Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. Her offerings combine modern science, neurobiology, and holistic healing with the ancient and powerful teachings of Tantra, Taoism, and shamanism. Sara supports women to awaken their orgasmic nature through rites of passage initiations, sacred sexuality healing, and soul retrieval journeys, co creating safe and transformative spaces for their free creative expression, self discovery, and grounded integration. She continues to offer one on one coaching, group sessions, and retreats around the world. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to have you here for another episode of the Healer Hub podcast. Today, with me is Sara Aljneibi, who is an artist, an empowerment and embodiment guide. Hello, Sara.
Hi.
I'm so happy to have you here. As we were talking about, we met through the certification that we are both following with Leila Martin. I would love to know more about who you are and your background story.
Who I am. So I am Sara, as you mentioned. I am half British and half Emirati. I was born in the UK and grew up in the UAE. I'm very much, I would say I have this Middle Eastern roots, but I have also the very witchy heart, mysticism background from my mother lineage. I am an artist. I basically constantly create space for my free, authentic expression in many ways. I work with people around the topics of embodiment, empowerment, and freedom of expression and freedom of creative expression as like similar to my own journey. And I offer multiple practices such as breathwork, shamanic breathwork, other breathwork modalities, therapeutic movement, and also embodiment practices. And yeah, I am truly passionate about this work. It is truly my life calling, and I basically it is still very much unfolding. Like I'm not so attached about this identity. It is constantly unfolding, constantly changing, and I am very honored and humbled about this journey of self-liberation and self-discovery and authenticity.
I love that. So you mentioned first your human journey. I'm wondering about how it was for you growing up as half British, half Emirati, living in the Middle East, and having this desire for self-liberation.
It was an interesting journey. I remember when I was very young, I remember imagining myself running away. I'm not really, this is my own personal journey. I'm not saying that it is horrible here. It is good. Also, there is space for women in different ways, but just, I felt that I always had this desire to be independent, while the Middle Eastern culture here do not offer that. What do you mean you be independent? You have to follow a group of people. You have to follow, the culture and traditions. Like it doesn't work like that. So that's why I was like always dreamt of traveling, because also me reaching this point in my life of being able to travel around, being able to create and just do whatever I want, that is, a lot of it does not conform to what is acceptable, what is okay in the culture. So I really came a long way. So my dreams when I was younger is to just travel around, to be free, to not necessarily consider everyone, because that's how we carry our whole family, whole lineage, whole country reputation on our shoulders as Arab women. So it's like it's a heavy weight to carry. So slowly is like really also respecting. And I found myself, the more I am stepping out and looking at it from a different perspective, from like a broader perspective, I'm having so much reverence and so much respect to the culture. I'm understanding from my own perspective, and I'm observing it and applying it into my life from this very rooted place, not just following what I have to do. So I feel it was challenging to grow up here, and beautiful in so many ways, because I could see I have so much, I would say, values and community values, family values, a lot of also connection with nature, a lot of faith. There's so much faith here. So a lot of like support. I really grew up with, like, women has to be supported. There's no way I go out and carry heavy bags without men offering to carry it for me. So traveling also around is like, the world is different. It's not, I'm not like this queen, princess, or whatever. So yeah, there is so much that I got, but it was also challenging to find my own voice.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that so vulnerably. I think my question was coming from the space where also the people who are not familiar with the Middle East, and it's difficult, even if you are traveling or living in the Middle East, you will never be able to fully understand the culture. And I'm grateful because your story is actually everybody's story, right? Is the heroine's journey of understanding where you came from and what you've been given as conditioning and stories, and then finding your own path to freedom, right? And it had the shape that it had for you because you're coming from two different, like really merging two different cultures. And then for other people, it just means understanding maybe the stories and expectations that their family, their parents, their society placed on them, and finding their freedom by emerging from there, or like deconstructing that. Yeah, and I love that you brought faith into discussion, because it is indeed like being familiar with the Middle East. It is indeed a space where I felt that I am being reminded, even by hearing and being exposed to it, to the Adhan, like 5 times per day.
Yes.
You just get that reminder of, yes, you are surrounded by God, and or goddess, or whatever you want to call it, and it's everywhere, and it's working through you, and it's creating through you. So yeah.
Yes, that faith aspect, and also being supported. So there's a funny thing that when I travel, I always find support. I always, people, because I'm super open for it, because that's how I grew up. And everyone's like, there is someone who was with a friend of mine who's also Middle Eastern. It's like, you Arab women, you know how to, everything is just set for you. Everything is just done for you. And I'm like, I think we don't carry that scarcity or like limiting belief that the world is not going to provide. and there are no people who will help us, and that we have to do everything alone. So that's the beauty of, I feel, what I carried from my culture is like I'm always supported. There is always family who will love me. There is always support wherever I go. Because it's a very generous culture. So I come from that, like, I would say, abundant belief. So I find it wherever I go.
Yeah, and it's really beautiful that you mentioned that, because I can see that, and it when for you this is your natural, of course you recognize it and you manifest it everywhere. It's just that it's not really manifesting, or that you have like a secret mysterious way of being
Yeah,
an Arab woman. It's just that for you it's your normal, right? Whereas maybe
exactly.
people who grew up with the idea that, oh, I'm alone and I have to make it on my own, then that's what that's what they are gonna reap in their human experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So you mentioned also your mom's side and what you called it the witchy side, and it's very interesting because I feel in the Middle East so much femininity and like so much mother energy, and of course, witch is such a like a heavily charged word, right? But I feel that
Yes,
nowhere else in the world is there more witchiness than here, just because this fluid,
true.
feminine, beautiful energy is ever present. So I'm wondering, how do you associate the witchiness with your mom's side, which is the British side?
Mm. I have to say that when I say that word, I was like, oops. I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have. And I kind of paused when I said it. But yeah, my intention for this chat is to show up fully. So I am showing up fully. The reason why I connected that with my mother is like almost like the the to me it's the Celtic background. It's the and also I see it in my mother. Like she is very sensitive. It's just she lacked the guidance and the tools, but I can totally see her very intuitive, very sensitive, and she's also an artist. So I would say like my artist side coming also from my mother's side. My grandmother she's a painter. Same thing. Artists are very sensitive. So that is the main quality of a witch, I feel, being super sensitive. So that is where I get it. And also in my journey of reclaiming who I am, in knowing who I am, I I remember when I was going in retreats and healing myself, and just I was like, now my mother wound is gonna show up, because my mother left when I was 2.5 years old. So I have abandonment wound. So I was like, okay, my mother wound will show up, and it didn't. So for many years, my father would show up, and I would just heal my father, which is more the control, the expectations and stuff. And it was very interesting that at that journey, the theme of that journey is empowerment, is really stepping into my power, is like boundaries, is sovereignty. Like that was the theme of that journey. And then when the mother showed up, like when I was like healing the mother wound, it's more of the love, the nurturance, and also the more I am in I would say both. There is the love, but more the nurturance is with the mother. The way I take care of myself, the way I eat, the way I relate to others, and love others. And also there is this huge reclamation, because I didn't grow up in the UK. I don't know my ancestry there. So last summer I remember going to the UK and going to Glastonbury and just having like a journey there, and it was a huge reclamation. And it was really the knowing that I come from this lineage that made me step into it more. made me step into my power in a more mystical way, rather than like the day-to-day, stepping into my power, which was more of like my father journey, the father. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it makes so much sense, and thank you for being so vulnerable and speaking about your abandonment wound. And so many people can relate with that, because for you it was practical, like physically your mom was no longer there, but some of us, we had our parents with us and still we felt that they were not fully present. So I think it speaks for other people. And then this dichotomy of the family, the feminine, the masculine, the father and the mother, and reclaiming aspects of yourself by I see it as giving them back what was theirs and what they
Yeah.
offered you. And then you, like everybody, actually choosing which parts stay and which parts are still coherent to who you are, and which parts were fully theirs and they served for a little while and then they have to go back to the mother or the father. Um, yeah, and such a beautiful journey of visiting the local, like the physical spaces, for you to reclaim aspects of your mystical intuition. And when you were talking about your mother and your grandmother and the artist, I was thinking, well, this is why the support comes for you so easily, because you are so open also for that. And that's how life flows through us when we are extremely open, and that's how creativity flows through us when we are extremely open.
I want to add to the also the my father's side, which is the Arab side, and how you're saying it has that feminine aspect, which is super true, and I feel that it is more of the rituals that I grew up with, women coming together and like celebrating together. When woman gives birth, all the feminine support, like all the rituals that I grew up with, it is very much that witch archetype, right? The one that is in community, the one is of service. But I feel like I only was able to see it when it came from an empowered place, a centered place, because I know that many giving of themselves to serve in these communities and culture, there's no way we can say no. So that's where the boundary comes, and really knowing when I am of service and when I'm giving of myself. And yeah, so it comes from both culturally, historically, also metaphysically, in all aspects.
Yeah, and I was thinking, because there was something pending in my mind that I couldn't find it, and thank you for bringing it back. It's the reclamation or the redefinition of the witch, right? That has so I come from a Christian background, so for us, witch is like home, like it hits home. If somebody calls you a witch, it's like, but
Yeah,
for
yeah, it's a
it's
very
just
bad word.
yes, and I grew up with both my grandmothers and my mom, who are doing all sorts of rituals to call in the rain or to give grace for the crops, and it was ingrained in them. It was who they were, and now I can look back and I can say, yes, these were rituals, right? And I believe that we come from a long lineage of witches. Like my grandparents, my mom's side, they had reddish hair and like the complete witch archetype. And my mom is like, no way, like we are Christians, like Jesus Christ superstar. And it's interesting because it's just a word. It is only a word, and it has so much connotation that the sole word creates so much resonance. And because growing up they didn't really put emphasis on this word, they put emphasis on other words that were a no in our household. So I didn't grow up with like the belief that being a witch is something terrible, and I always like watched the cartoons, and like it was connotated positively. So for me, when I hear anything about witchcraft, witchiness, I'm like, home, yes, like healing, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So what does healing mean to you?
Healing. Healing, what the words that's coming to me is shedding. And yeah, so unlearning, shedding, letting go with ease and grace and love, um, holding myself with unconditional love along the process. And it is truly, as cliche as this sounds, it is truly just goes back to how much do you love yourself. And that is my healing journey. How much do I love myself when I make a mistake? How much do I love myself when I see that I was operating in, like, for so long in a disempowered place? I was giving my power away. I was doing things really, or maybe I was the evil, the villain, the one who did something wrong. And just how much can I love myself through this? And that is the only way I can heal and shift and make different choices. And yeah, and choose differently every time. Like, healing is really the power of making different choices and choosing differently along the way, and holding myself with so much love and yeah, love.
Yeah, this idea of tantra, right, of loving all your aspects. And I think that for me, when I'm hearing you speaking about healing, it's exactly this. When you get to that space where what you used to consider as the less desirable aspect of you, the villain, the mean, the greedy, the whatever, becomes just another aspect that is equally lovable because it exists and it's a part of who you are. And I'm wondering, how does your journey to self-love relate to the modalities, and your perspective on healing also relates to the modalities that you are bringing about in the sessions, in the work that you are doing with your clients?
Mm. Yeah, as I said, it's really, everything is about self-love, and it really plays a role into, if you want to tap into what your heart desires in terms of your career and in terms of how you want to show up in the world. It also ties strongly when it comes to, if you want to magnetize your partner, your future partner, or like, it comes from that place. It also comes like from that, like, the self-love is the anchor when you are a mother, when you want to cultivate a community, when you want to be in relationship, and a stable, loving, sustainable relationship. Yeah, so it is truly the base, and it is the anchor that um, that is like kind of everyone goes back to be able to cultivate the life that they desire in all aspects.
Yeah.
That's what's coming up for me. I couldn't think of like an actual tangible example.
But then again, I feel that, the people who are listening to this and who recognize the kind of work that goes through, like any healing modalities, this speaks to them.
Mm.
And this is, I think, something quite difficult in the kind of work that we are doing, because people want to know, like, what are the exact benefits of doing breath work? And of course, you can explain that, but then it's such a particular journey, and it's so um, like personal to everybody, that even when you mention self-love, I remember when I first started on this journey of self-love, it was more about, having a massage, getting my nails done. It was like a very um, how to say, like, front face kind of a thing, right?
Yes.
Because there are layers and layers, and then you understand that there is something much deeper. And you mentioned that when you are able to really be with the whole of you, and um, really love back and to integrate those aspects, and to, in some sorts, like, I don't like the, the trend word like reparenting, but it is actually that, like that little aspect, that little tender aspect that used to believe that she was a villain just because she was attracted to something that were not in alignment with the expectations of her culture or her family, and then looking at that beautiful, tender, soft part, and telling her that it's so beautiful, that she's curious, and she's not only curious, she actually took the steps of exploring further what she was drawn to. And that's extremely courageous. Yeah.
And also I feel self-love is about, it's, as you said, that self-care and massage and stuff is like almost like the first step, and the slowing down and the surface. But then it is really having to taking the steps to having these very difficult conversations with the ones you love the most, for example. That is self-love. Drawing the line, knowing when, like, because back to my culture, there is, what do you mean boundaries with family? That does not even exist. So that is like, makes you the ultimate villain, right? So just how to navigate that while really having respect and communicate. I've been calling in loving and clear boundaries. I used to call in strong and clear boundaries. I was like, no, I don't want strong. I want loving and clear boundaries. I want to communicate my boundaries in a very loving way. So it doesn't make it less difficult, but this is also self-love. It's how to put yourself first while also considering the people you love the most around you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that, because I think that sometimes when I have conversations with, I did this journey when I was a little bit younger, so it became so much easier for me. And I remember several weeks ago, I danced, and I was at a salsa event, and one of my friends told me, I remember one evening you came back to the table because this guy asked you to dance and you said no. And you came back to the table and you sat down and you said, I am choosing to be unapologetically me. And she said, every time that I struggle with boundaries, I remember you saying that. And she comes from Tunisia, so it's also, she has a cultural aspect that it makes it quite challenging for her to say no. And what I would also like to bring is into discussion is the fact that it's not only a matter of self-love. And I know that for the people who are receiving our loving and clear boundaries, for them it doesn't look at all like love, but to me it is love, because then you allow those people to see you fully in who you are and what you desire from that connection too. Whereas most people feel that it's better to just keep the appearances and just go along with as much as you can. There are certain things that you wouldn't be, and then you really have to have a discussion. But I feel that it's coming from a space of, I don't love this person enough to allow them to see how I actually feel about what they're bringing to the table or about our connection. Yeah.
Yeah, you reminded me of a friend told me once, you make it so easy to love you. The more you share your boundaries and your preferences and what you'd like. Also, I don't only share what I don't like, I share also what I like. So it's like you make it super easy to love you, because I'm basically showing them who I am. It's like, okay, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. And it makes it easier to eliminate those people who cannot be with who I am, and makes it easier for those who wants to show up and not, because there is this something about women that we're just too scared to share our preferences, and it makes it hard for the people around us to navigate. So there is something that we didn't like, we just internalize it. Or if there is something that we feel that we want, or it's like, no, she should know, she's my best friend, I shouldn't tell her that I want this. like these kind of, this needs to die, all of this. And we need to be able to communicate heart to heart and say, when you did this, I didn't like it. Or please do more of this. And express love more. I felt like the more I communicate, the more I express love more. Oh my God, I love when you send me messages. I really love it. And, just sharing my heart and sharing how I feel about every move, and makes it easier for other people to love us and for us to receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think that also in heterosexual relationships, I don't know, because I come from the cisgender perspective, right? But it was such a pivotal moment with my ex-partner. I used to express, because he would do the things that were natural for me, but because I had been deprived all my life from basically pretty much everybody in my life of that, I would tell him like, oh, you just opened the door for me, this is amazing. And he was like, I just opened the door. And I was like, yes, you just opened the door,
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful to also experience how he was receiving that, right? Because like, this is amazing, I just have to be who I am, and this is great for you. And I was like, exactly, it was such a like powerful thing to see for both of us, how being celebrated and celebrating, and also saying, hey, like, this could have been this way and I would have received it better if it was this way. And it was so powerful. And people are like, but where is the mystery? Like, shouldn't they? Like, no, I love this. Like, this is what mystery looks like.
Yes. And I just heard, I saw somewhere on Instagram a man saying, when a woman really receives, because the man gives, right? That's how the man operates. He gives. So when the woman doesn't appreciate, doesn't say those words, like, oh my God, you did this, and receive it in that way, like instead of saying, oh, you could have just opened the door that way, or whatever, it kind of makes the man, because the man is very sensitive also in his giving, so he shrinks, and he doesn't want to give anymore. So it makes that dance, that mystery, dies.
Yeah.
Right? It's just because he opens when you receive, and you open when you receive, and it makes a very, very beautiful, mystical dance.
Yeah. So you mentioned shamanic breath work, and then you do some therapeutic movement. I'm wondering, how do they actually look? So, like, what is shamanic breath work?
Shamanic breath work is like a ceremony, and it goes through a musical journey of the 7 chakras, and is the breath is a circular breath. However, it looks like a dynamic or soft, or just like a circular breath throughout the hour, and that helps our defense mechanism, our prefrontal cortex to just calm down, and we're not so connected to the 10% rational mind, and we have access to deeper layers of the brain, which is the emotional brain, the primal brain. So it is really a powerful space to release, to also because the breath increases the MT, because with more oxygen in the body. So also many have like journeys, and they go into trance, and they just connect with the other worlds and other realms, and some really feel for the first time, allow themselves to feel without really their brain saying, why are you crying? You shouldn't be crying, or you should be happy the whole time, or whatever. So and then after that, it closes with a processing and integration, which to me is very, very important, to kind of how can we bring what was in the journey to implement it in your daily lives. So, and shamanic breathwork really, I mean, any type of breathwork, but really shamanic breathwork transforms your life because it can address deep things that are stored in the body that usually energetically and physically stops us from living the life we desire. If we carry anger for many years that is unresolved, that is not unprocessed, unexpressed, then we're going to move into our lives just carrying that anger, and we're going to manifest things that activates that anger or confirms that anger. But these spaces are safe spaces for freedom of expression, just expressing that and feeling lighter and lighter and lighter the more you do it. And you asked about therapeutic movement. That has been truly my journey of really liberating myself and coming into my body and releasing in different ways. So it is just we live I'm talking about myself, like I lived for so many years outside of myself, being physically abused for many years, and also not living in a safe environment for me to express, and just so detached from who I am growing up made me not really in my body. So moving my body, taking deep breaths slowly or in any pace, to me is a powerful tool to land in the body. And it can be guided in different ways, like connecting with the elements, like moving like water, moving like earth, being held by earth, and then like fire, being fiery, and just connecting with the elements in the body, and like air. And there is one dance which is more of a flow, that is more connecting with our sensual self that is being oppressed. And really, because when you're sensual and when you're like really in that receptive feminine state, you open and you relax and you surrender. So that is the other form that I guide, which to me is, I had many years of starting my day with that movement, and it just transformed my life.
Yeah, I love movement and I love dancing, and thank you for also sharing that vulnerable aspect of having been physically abused for years, because trauma just gets stored in the fascia and in the muscles in the body. So when you start moving the body, then it's as if it breathes in the aspects that were deprived of oxygen. Yeah. What is your biggest life dream at this moment?
Ah. Oh, I have so many dreams, and I allow myself to dream. And I have really gigantic dreams that my brain is like, really? Like, really? Is that gonna happen? But I trust, and my dream is to be fully and completely free in my body and in my environment, and be and live life fully, be fully alive in my body and experience love and experience joy, and create space for them, that is like really for myself. And by me stepping into that, inviting others to be in that grounded place, be in that like really cultivating safety for who they are, because there isn't that much of safe spaces in the world for us to just be, for us to just express and be free. So I really pray, this is like my dream, to create more and more and more free and safe spaces for absolute freedom and creativity, and just the things that nourishes our soul, nourishes our body, nourishes our mind, and yeah, that's what's coming up right now.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Like, I don't know if you know this Mama Gina, I think Gina does in her.
Yeah, but this is like, yeah, it comes from ancient old cultures. I don't know the story, but yeah.
What motivates you to do the kind of work that you do in the world?
What motivates me? What motivates me is when I see other people come to themselves, other women really find their way to their hearts and just feel liberated. So that is one form of motivation. Another motivation is that because I have big dreams for myself, just feeling that, I dreamt of this years ago and I'm now living it. Like this really motivates me. And then I feel like everyone can do it. If I am doing it, everyone can do it. So just me, by being me, inspires others, and them also knowing where I'm coming from, my background, really makes them see that it is possible. It is possible to create space of safety and freedom. So that is that what inspires me. Mm-hmm. And art, because that's the expression, which is like really when I create something that I feel like, I came like really from the core of my being, or like from the core of my being in all realms. Just that motivates me when I see that, because it's also a dream come true.
What is your go-to medium for artistic expression?
I started. I would say number one is dance, but because there is so much control, there's so much expectation, there's so much oppression and suppression when it comes to physical expression in the public space and in front of people, coming from my background. So I haven't yet expressed that publicly, only in safe spaces, only in my sessions, only in my retreats, only in in safe spaces and in my own, obviously, space. So that, I would say, my first form or medium. The second one that is giving me so much space to create and share is writing. It is the medium that makes me just, I can't, sometimes it's like I need to write, and I write it and I share it, and it had offered me so much healing, so much healing. So, and also it touched so many people in so many profound ways. And I wrote a chapter in my Shamanic Breathwork teacher book. She invited me to write a chapter in her book, and I have the desire to one day write my book and write my story. So this is definitely a medium that's been with me. Also coming from two cultures and not really perfecting one language, like not perfecting Arabic and not perfecting English, in my opinion. It's a very, because like creating, it comes with a little bit of challenge and like a little bit of creating space within that medium. So yeah, this has been the other medium. And also obviously because I studied art, contemporary art and art therapy in Spain, I practiced and I did other things. So what was the theme at that time is installation art, and I realized in sound art. So I realized how I love creating spaces, and I would just create sound and let people just sit and hear. So, and at that time, I wasn't in this journey yet, but my soul was already creating spaces of contemplation or kind of going in the imaginative part of themselves. So now with the retreats I create, it is a continuation of creating spaces, artistic spaces, and it fulfills that part of me. It doesn't have to be in a gallery. It doesn't have to be in, like, you know what I mean, like be acknowledged as a contemporary artist in that way. What's important is to fulfill what the definition of artist that I embody. And yeah, so creating the program and really also being in that creation, not be attached to an outcome and how is it going to look like any artistic process in the retreat, and then just let it go when it's done, and like really touch people's hearts and touch people's lives in that process. To me, this is also like one of my really favorite art expression.
Yeah. You're mentioning your retreats. So I know that you have a retreat coming up. Can you tell us more about that?
So there are a couple of things coming up, but some are not ready to be shared. And I will definitely share them as soon as they're ready to be shared. But the one that is out is a weekend retreat, 3 days retreat in Lebanon, to really immerse in nature and go into a journey with the elements that are within us and around us. And the space that is chosen in Lebanon is in the mountains, and there is a river just a walk distance, and it's really, really beautiful. It's it's a space to just unwind and connect and be in that space, and heart-centered, grounded space. And then other retreats are coming, and this retreat is called Root Down, just in case anyone is interested, and it's in my website. Other sessions I will be. These are I'm not ready to kind of share necessarily, but many things to stay tuned to in Ireland, in the UK, in South Africa, probably Egypt, and maybe Spain or somewhere in the Mediterranean. So still refining, locking things down. So for this year, and we'll share them as soon as they're ready.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sara. It was a real pleasure. Where can people find you online and stay in contact with you and what you are up to?
So my website is, they can check my website because usually I post offerings there. It's saraaljneibi.com. And my Instagram and my Facebook. Instagram is Hawa Sara, is the name I'm embodying recently. I've been sitting with for many, many years, and it's just starting to come out. It's more almost like the artist in me. Hawa Sara _ and Sara Aljneibi on Facebook also.
Yeah, so all the links are gonna be in the footnotes of this episode. Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
It was such a joy to connect with you and just talk. I felt so open and so much myself, and I loved this, and I really pray that people who are meant to receive this content for it to land in their to them, and for them to receive this, and even like if it plants the seed in any way in anyone's heart. And thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for the work you're doing. I can feel it. I can feel that it's deeply, deeply feminine. I can feel that, and deeply rooted, and many people need it. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So it shall be. Thank you so much, Sara. I really appreciate
Thank
your
you.
openness. I know that it was an act of courage for you to show up and to show up so beautifully and boldly yourself. And thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
The best way to support the Healer Hub podcast is to review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and share it with your people. Thank you so much. Deeply grateful for your support.